When people think about purpose in their lives, they usually think about their dreams for the future. Now, dreams are good, but what if you could find a lot more purpose in your everyday life? In this video, I will share with you a powerful exercise that we use in our purpose training workshops. It'll help you to understand both how you live your life currently and how you can live it with more purpose. At the end of this video, I'll share with you some examples from my own life of how I have used this exercise to make my life more purposeful. My name is Bradley Wright. I'm a professor of sociology and the co-founder of the Life Purpose Lab. In our lab, we train people both how to find more purpose in their future, but also their present. Here's the exercise. It has several steps. I'll explain to you how to do each step, but after I explain it, you'll want to pause the video and then do the step. First, list out 20 activities that you do on a semi-regular basis. You don't want them to be necessarily the most meaningful things you do, but you also don't want them to be rote things like breathing or something. But if you had to pick 20 activities that you do a fair amount, what are they? And just list them here. Here's an example of what it might look like. Next, place these activities on a 3x3 table. Now, this 3x3 table has two dimensions. From left to right is how meaningful the activity is, and from bottom up is how pleasurable it is. So if you put an activity in the far left, that means it's not very meaningful. Far right, very meaningful. Bottom row, not very pleasurable. Top row, very pleasurable. So you can see there are 9 different cells you can put these activities in. Let's look at some hypothetical examples. Say you commute to work. You don't find it very pleasurable, so it'll be on the bottom row. It's moderately meaningful because you're providing for yourself or maybe your family. So it would be in the middle, say, we'll give it moderate meaning. So that means that you would list it in cell number 8. Another example. Let's take watching television. Say you find it very pleasurable. So it'd be in the top row, but it's not very meaningful. It's just fluff for you. So that would be on the left. So that would be cell number 1. Or what if you went on a great vacation with your loved ones? It was a lot of fun and there was a lot of connection. Well, to me, that sounds like it's very pleasurable and very meaningful. So you would list it in the top right, cell number 3. Okay, so go ahead and take the time now to take each of the 20 activities that you've listed and put them into the grid. When you're done, here's an example of what it might look like. Once you've created your list and put your activities on the grid, what you want to do now is to interpret them. This grid will give you insight into how you live your life. So the activities in the top right, that's the ideal zone. That's where you want to be as much as possible. The activities in the bottom left, that's the zone that drains you. These are things that don't really give you pleasure, but they're also not very meaningful. Top left are things that are shallow, but pleasurable. Bottom right, those are the things that matter, but are difficult. Take a look at the grid that you've created and look for patterns or surprises. What does this tell you about your life? Once you've filled out this grid, and once you've thought about what it means for how you live your life, you want to explore how you can change it. So in general, you want things to go to the right to be more meaningful, ideally up and to the right. So that means that you have several options. You can look at things that are in the top right, activities that are already pleasurable and meaningful, and just do more of them. You could also look at things in the bottom left. These are things that are not very meaningful, not very pleasurable. Is there a way that you can do less of them? And then in general, with all your activities, can you do them differently so they move to the right and hopefully to the right and up? In this way, you change the activities, you change how you do them to make them more meaningful. Let me give you some examples from my own life. So I created this exercise about a decade ago. And when I did it, there was a big aha because there were things in the bottom left that I thought to myself, why am I doing these? And there were things in the top right where I thought, oh, I could do a lot more of these. And then throughout there were things I thought, oh, I could do them differently. For example, in the top right, I had talking to my brother and sister. I really enjoyed it. It was very meaningful, but we didn't do it very often. So I thought, well, one way of having more purpose in my life is just to do that more often. So I texted them and I said, hey, could we talk more often? They said, sure, let's do it. And since then, we talked about every week or two. And I really enjoy it, and it means a lot to me. In the bottom left was watching news. I love watching news. I can spend hours watching the news. I could literally start at one website, go to another, and I have a circuit of about 12 or 15 websites I go through, take a couple hours to do it, reading the news, come back to the first one and be annoyed if there aren't new stories for me to read. Now, here's the problem. I don't actually enjoy it. It's very engaging, but I'm not very happy when I'm doing it. It just upsets me. I also don't think it's very meaningful, at least for me, because I'm not really acting on this information. So what I've tried to do is just to do a lot less of that. I've adopted what I've heard called a low information diet. As an example of what I could do differently, I spend a lot of time driving to appointments and meetings. So I asked myself, what could I do to make that driving time more meaningful or maybe even more pleasurable? So I started listening to podcasts more intentionally. I found that engaging with the person giving the podcast was very pleasurable, but even more so, what I was learning was very meaningful to me. So I took something I was already doing and I made it more meaningful. So what are the meta lessons that we can learn from this exercise? Well, it'll suggest basic changes that you can make in your life, and that's very powerful. In addition, it gives you a sense of how to live a good life. The people who live purposefully, the people who live really good lives, are always looking to go to the right on this grid. Ideally, they go up. Sometimes they just go laterally, but they're willing to go down and to the right. They're willing to sacrifice pleasure for more meaning. The people who get into trouble in life, the people who live not very purposeful lives, are the ones who are willing to go up and to the left. They're willing to trade meaning for more pleasure. The general underlying assumption of this exercise is well encapsulated by this quotation by the author Annie Dillard. How you live your day is, of course, how you live your life. In that sense, if we want to have a purposeful life, one of the things that we want to be doing actively, intentionally, is making each day as purposeful as possible. If you want to try this exercise out for yourself, you can just follow along with the video. I've also posted a PDF of the exercise with some additional prompts that you can just download for free. If you do it, I would love to see in the comments something that you learned from it. As you do this exercise, you're going to start thinking about goals in your life. If you want to understand more about the relationship between goals and purpose, you can watch this video. Thank you, and until the next video.